Hello, my dear friends of grade 5. Hope you are all well and doing fine. Today, inshallah, we'll do a worksheet on chapter 4, lesson 2. So let's start with question number 1. What is an inherited trait? And you guys know that inherited means something we got from our parents. So when I say inherited trait, means features or characteristics. Sometimes they are behaviors that we get from our parents. So it will be C, characteristics or features passed to us from our parents. Number 2, what is an example of an inherited trait? So we have walking, eye color, or fighting. Of course, it's an eye color because we learned both walking and fighting. If we go back to the study sheet, you will see that we have some examples of inherited traits like the hair color, the fur color, eye color, skin color, freckles, the hair texture, um, the ear shape, and also some behaviors like using your right hand or left hand. Now back to the worksheet. Number 3, how did Gregor Mendel change the world? So you guys know that you learned that Gregor Mendel was interested in how um, the genes are passed from the parents to the offspring. So he made his experiment on pea plants. And from his experiments, he proved that parents and offspring share characteristics. Number 4, the passing of genetic traits from parents to offspring. This is called heredity. Number 5, dominant alleles are presented by, that's right, capital letter. If we went back to the study sheet, you guys can see in here that dominant trait appears even if the organism has only one factor. And as you can see, it's presented with, it could be with 2T capitals or 1T capital, 1T small. Of course, these letters can change up to the trait itself, but what we mean here is that it could be with both capital letters or one capital letter and one small letter, and the capital letter still presents the dominant trait, and since it's the stronger one, it will appear even if there is one factor of it, not like the recessive trait that appears only if the organism has two factors of the recessive one. No dominant trait with it. Now back to the worksheet. So in the next question it says 2A capitals and 1A capital, 1A small always show up as, that's right, dominant trait. That means 2A small will always show up as recessive trait. Number 8, it says the G capital represents green and G small represents yellow. So you guys know that the small letter represents the recessive trait. That's right. So the genotype for a yellow plant, that means the yellow plant will carry which factors? That means that's right, will carry both recessive traits. Which is an example of a learned behavior? So we have two types of behaviors. Some behaviors are inherited, so they are passed to us by our parents, that we do not learn them, we're just born with them. And some behaviors are learned, like cats learning to hunt by their mothers. So in these choices, we have riding a bike, swallowing, and crying. Of course, riding a bike is the answer because we don't learn how to swallow or cry. These are behaviors we are born with. Number 10, what type of adaptation is migration? And you guys know that migration is when an organism travels or moves from one place to another. It could be from a cold place to a warm place, or a place with no food to a place with enough food for it. And most of the birds do that. So migration is a behavioral adaptation because it's something the animal or the organism does. Number 11, when an organism is completely wiped out of existence, we call it exactly extinction. That means it went extinct, which means it's not there anymore. Number 12, what word describes the process of having the advantageous trait, which means a good trait, that helps an organism survive and reproduce? Exactly, that is adaptation. To adapt, to survive in your environment, to have traits that will help you to live longer and also produce and offsprings that carry the same good traits or the same traits that will help the offsprings to adapt. Number 13, the act of blending in with the environment, which means to be invisible or to look like or carry the color patterns of the surroundings. That means camouflage. And this is a physical behavior. If you went back to, physical adaptation. If you went back to the study sheet, you will see that we have physical adaptation and behavioral adaptation. In the physical adaptation, it's changes in the color of the fur or uh, maybe having certain color patterns that help you blend in with the environment, like camouflage, as we said. And we have also mimicry, which means to look like another dangerous animal. What is the advantage of having different shaped beaks? Well, each bird have a certain shape of beak because it depends on what it eats. So birds that are carnivores will always have these sharp beaks that will help them tear the meat. So the shape of the beak means to be able to eat the food readily available in the environment. Number 15, an inherited trait that helps those organisms that have it to survive. This is another meaning for adaptation, that's right. Number 16, if an animal has a behavior that they are born with, so they do not learn it, we call this an inherited behavior. That's right. Which organisms are most likely to survive? We said this before that it's the staying or the surviving is not for the strongest, it's not for the fastest, it's for the best adapted or this organism that could survive the most. Beak shape depends on, we just said that, the diet, what the bird eats, if it eats meat, if it eats seeds or worms, so it depends on its diet. Number 19, when an organism copies characteristics from something else, so we said something else, not another organism, in order to better its chances for survival and reproduction, we call this camouflage. What word describes a trait that helps an organism survive in its environment? Yes, this is another meaning for adaptation. How do adaptations help animals? In questions like this, you guys have to read all the choices you have. So we have to escape animals, or to hunt for food, or to survive in their habitats. All of these correct. That's right. So it's the last choice. All of these are correct because adaptation could be in both predators and prey. Both of them need to adapt. The prey need to adapt so it can survive and escape from its predators, and predators need to adapt so they can hunt easily and get food with the easiest way. Number 22, this is a period of deep sleep that occurs or happens in some animals when outside temperatures are cold. Exactly, that's what we call hibernation, and this is also a behavioral adaptation. It's something the animal does. Why are advantageous traits, which means good traits, more likely to be passed on to offsprings? Because the organisms with the best traits that will help them to survive more in the environment will be able to reproduce and make more offsprings or more babies that carry the same good genes or the good traits. So because they are more likely to survive and reproduce. Number 24, some animals move great distances as the seasons change, which means to travel from one place to another, from cold place to warm place. That's what we call migration. This is another type of behavioral adaptation. Number 25, an example of a physical adaptation, which means adaptation in the shape. We have a turtle hiding inside a shell, what's something the animal is doing, right? So this is a behavioral one. The rabbit burrowing under the ground, or a snake biting when threatened, or the spikes on a pork-cupping fish. This is B, yes, because spikes are something on their bodies that help to protect them from predators, while the other options we're having are all something animals do, which means that it's behavioral one. Number 26, why do some animals hibernate? The cold weather makes them sleepy, their food supply is smaller in the winter, they have no one to play with. Obviously, it's B, their food supply is smaller in the winter, and that's why most of the animals tend to hibernate to save the energy. Number 27, an animal's color or pattern that helps it blend into the surrounding, to be invisible. That's what we call camouflage. Number 28, which of these best describes how some birds survive when the weather gets cold? That's right, they migrate to a warmer climate. What term describes when one organism copies another organism? In this picture on the right, we're having a worm that looks like a snake. So it's mimicking a snake to help escape from its predators, to scare its predators. So that's what we call mimicry, to look like another dangerous animal. Number 30. Lions often hide in the tall grass while stalking their prey, while they're watching their prey. This is an example of exactly camouflage. So even predators, guys, need camouflage, so it will, make hunting easier for them. Number 31. This word means to stay alive. Obviously, survive. That's right. A nice smell is an adaptation that helps plants keep water inside the leaves, or pokes animals, which means, stick animals or hurt them to try to eat them, or attracts pollinators, just like bees, birds, and all of that to help in pollination. So it's of course C. Number 33, which feature would be most helpful to a plant in a desert? It will be small leaves, because there is a process called transpiration where water evaporates from the plant itself through its leaves. So the bigger the leaves, the bigger amount of water it's going to lose. That's why most of the plants that live in desert, whether they don't have leaves, like cactus for example, or they have smaller leaves, so they help to save the water inside of them, because there is no enough water. They are in the desert, so they will never get enough water as long as they want, so they have to save the water in case there was a long period of drought. In the next question, it's the same thing. Some plants have small leaves that help them do which of these, which is save the water. Number 35, which feature of a rose helps it grow without being eaten by large animals? Flowers with bright colors, well, bright colors will attract more eaters. Sharp thorns, small seeds, or deep roots. Well, deep roots will have them get water if they, living in a place with no enough water. But sharp thorns will help them be protected by how sharp it is, because now it will hurt the eaters that will try to eat these plants. Number 36, the ears of this fox, they are bigger, right? Because it will help it collect more sounds. What do you think this is a type of adaptation? Is it behavioral adaptation, a physical adaptation, or it's a plastic surgery that's gone horribly wrong? Exactly, it's a physical one. Number 37, Which of these choices is an example of something that is needed for survival? We have to read all the choices in such questions. Adaptation, food, water. Exactly, it's all of the above. An octopus can change its colors to match its surroundings, to blend in with its surroundings. This is an example of which type? Exactly, it's camouflage. Number 39, physical or behavioral adaptation. You have to pick which one. A hedgehog rolls itself into a ball for protection. Exactly, it's something the animal did, so it's a behavioral adaptation. Number 40, physical or behavioral. Desert animals burrow in the ground to avoid the heat. So they go down under the ground so they can prevent their bodies from getting all the heat in the morning. This is something also the animal do, which is behavioral adaptation. Give at least 3 examples of inherited traits. So we have the eye color, hair color. We go back to the study sheet to show you guys. So here we have a lot of examples. Hair color, eye color, skin color, the shape of the ear loop, being right-handed or being left-handed. The next question says, Mendel learned that traits can skip generation. How did he learn that? Well, because the shortness or the trait responsible for being short did not appear in the first generation. It only appeared in the second generation. That means some of the traits can skip a generation if they are recessive, for example, in this case, and appear in the next one. That's what happened in his experiment. Number 43, why did Mendel choose pea plants? We said for 2 reasons. He chose the pea plants because they have distinctive features, which means they have obvious differences between them. They were whether tall, short, whether with a purple flower or white flower, whether with a green pea or yellow one, wrinkled pea and a round one. So there were obvious differences between them, so we can see the difference easily. Number 2 is that they were self-pollinated, so he made sure that they will not get any genes from any other flower by, moving, or not like other plants where cross-pollination carries one pollen from one flower and add it to a whole other flower that will make exactly differences in the genes. So he made sure that the pea plants are the ones to do the experiment on because they were self-pollinated, which means the pollen that carry the male sex cells will move into to fertilize the egg in the same flower. So there are no differences in the genes. The tall plant will always produce tall plants, the short plant will always produce short plants because there are no genes from any other flower. Number 44. This is the last question. The first generation in Mendel's pea plant experiment were all exactly. They were all tall plants. If we went back to the experiment, you guys will see in here that in the first generation all the plants were tall because they had both dominant and recessive trait, but because dominant trait, which is tallness, was the stronger one, that's why it was the most expressed. The short trait or the recessive trait appeared in the second generation in 1/4 of the seeds because this one was the only one that carried both factors for recessive trait. Okay guys, so that's the end of our video. I hope you got what you needed. If you guys still have any questions, you can send it to me any time. And thank you for watching.